Dr. Laura Schlessinger N-word rant. This is a great story. I love this story on a number of different levels. You've been following this thing, right, Lewis?
Right.
Dr. Laura, who is a social conservative, I guess is the way she's described. She's a talk show host. She's been around for a while. She went on what I guess we are just going to call the N-word rant the other day during her show. A black woman called in saying she had some complaints about things that her husband and his friends, who are white, had been saying about her. This is the original phone caller into the show.
I'm having an issue with my husband. I'm black and he's white.
Okay. So Dr. Laura ended up responding in a very weird way. When I first heard this, I said, there has to be more context to this, but there really is not. Dr. Laura just had a very weird reaction, and it included the N-word, I think, 11 times total. Take a listen.
Turn on HBO, listen to a black comic, and all you hear is I don't get it. If anybody without enough melanin says it, it's a horrible thing.
I can't believe someone like you is on the radio spewing out the word, and I hope everybody heard it. So what
they did, and I'll say it again. Is what you hear on HB. If you're that hypersensitive about color and don't have a sense of humor, don't marry out of your race.
Don't marry out of your race if you don't have a sense of humor about race. Okay, so not surprisingly, the next day, what happens? Obviously, we get the standard apology, and the apology is long, and it includes really long pauses that seem almost too long on a radio show. But here is just an excerpt from Dr. Laura's apology for her N-word rant.
I didn't intend to hurt people. I was attempting to make a philosophical point, and I articulated the N-word all the way out more than one time, and that was wrong.
Very wrong. So the apology, fine, we get the apology. She didn't mean it, or she shouldn't have said it, at least. She doesn't say that she didn't mean what she said. She's just apologizing for having offended people, right? I mean, there's no indication. We heard the whole apology, Lewis. There's no indication from the 9-minute apology that she actually didn't mean what she said, is there?
I did not get that impression.
No, she was just saying she was sorry. It was the wrong thing to say.
It was the wrong thing to do.
And she's sorry that people were offended.
Right.
But she is not. She obviously believes what she said, or at least she's given no indication that she doesn't. Fine. Then here's where it goes south for me. Al Sharpton is invited onto the Anderson Cooper show on CNN to discuss how bad is what Dr. Laura did. Should Dr. Laura be fired? What should happen to Dr. Laura? And I just don't like it when Al Sharpton, first of all, we've talked about this before. Who appointed Al Sharpton as the arbiter to all N-word incidents and anything involving black people at all? I mean, certainly African Americans have not appointed Al Sharpton to that role, have they?
Like, was there some type of vote where?
Right, it's Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson. For some reason, when people use the N-word, it has to be run by Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson. Mm-hmm. Now, even more so, forget about the fact that nobody's appointed them, that I know of, to do that. Al Sharpton is a racist. Why would you go to a racist to say what should happen to somebody who made racist comments? It makes no sense to me. And if you're going to say, well, what evidence do I have that Al Sharpton is a racist? In case anybody's going to say that, I assume at this point the conventional wisdom is creeping in that Al Sharpton himself is a racist and people aren't taking him particularly seriously. The 1987 Tawana Brawley hoax, if you don't know about it, look it up. We won't go into it, but that's Exhibit A, so to speak. Exhibit B, 1991, Al Sharpton incites a riot around the Crown Heights incident, and he also refers to Jews as diamond merchants. Now, maybe he was just specifically referring to one Jewish individual who was a diamond merchant, but I don't think that was the context. In 1995, he has an incident. He's involved in an incident with a church. Church's Rant, actually, that involved him talking about, we're going to see that this cracker suffers. Imagine if the situation was reversed and somebody was specifically trying to wish harm on and using the N-word on a black person. It would be the end of it.
Oh, yeah.
But for whatever reason, Al Sharpton, even though he uses the term diamond merchant, cracker, he is the arbiter anytime somebody uses the N-word. Fine, that's what it is. Oh, by the way, Fox News is having Mel Gibson on to talk about what he thinks should happen to Dr. Laura. He thinks it's fine. He thinks it's no big deal at all. He says Dr. Laura is a nice woman, and he knows she is not a racist. I guess that that's the way Fox News decided to go with it. So then Dr. Laura decides to go on Larry King. And Larry King teases it and says the following.
Tonight, Dr. Laura exclusive. She shocked the country with her repeated use of the N-word on her radio show last week.
Listen to a black comic and all you hear is...
And now, for the first time since then, she'll tell the world why she did it, what she was thinking. She's got a big announcement, too. It's seconds away.
Okay, so she has a big announcement, and Larry King is all wound up about it. What is the announcement from Dr. Laura? Let's hear it.
So what are you here to tell us tonight?
Well, I'm here to say that my contract is up for my radio show at the end of the year, and I've made the decision not to do radio anymore. The reason is I want to regain my First Amendment rights. I want to be able to say what's on my mind and in my heart and what I think is helpful and useful without somebody getting angry, some special interest group deciding this is a time to silence a voice of dissent and attack affiliates and attack sponsors. I'm sort of done with that.
Okay. This is the most bogus quitting explanation I've ever heard. Number one, she wants to regain her First Amendment rights. I didn't know that her First Amendment rights had been violated. Didn't she say what she wanted to say?
I think if she had lost her First Amendment rights, then that would be grounds for a lawsuit.
Then she would be able to regain them. You can say whatever you want on the radio. She did do that. The First Amendment doesn't say people can't be offended.
Right.
Right? The First Amendment says a lot of things, and it doesn't say a lot of things, but her First Amendment right was not taken away. She is choosing to end the show. She could keep the show. And she made her racist N-word rant. The other issue that she mentions is when special interest groups get silence a voice of dissent. What was she dissenting about? She likes the N-word, and people are trying to silence her from using the N-word. Is that what is she talking about, Lewis? Explain it to me.
I wish I could.
You're a better interpreter of these apologies, explanations.
Perhaps she thinks if she goes to a different medium,
not radio,
there will be less of this.
Maybe she's right. You know, I don't think she'll really quit. I think what she's saying now is her contract is up in a year, at the end of the year. She's saying she won't renew her contract. She'll wait a little bit. People will forget about this. Then she'll quietly negotiate a new contract with Premier Radio Networks, Clear Channel. She'll sign it. It won't be big news at that point. And she'll come back. She'll do the Imus. She'll even come back with a black co-host. Actually, Imus said nappy-headed hose, and I think they brought in one or two black co-hosts. She said the N-word 11 times. She's going to need 10 people.
An entire black crew.
She's going to need She's going to need to have a black producer, black publicist, 3 black co-hosts, and I think that's much more likely. By the way, this is not the first time that she has been involved. You know, it's rare when racists hate only one group. As we saw with Mel Gibson, we thought maybe it was just Jews, and then there were homosexuals, and then it's black people. It's not that different with Dr. Laura. She made headlines several years ago after she called LGBT people biological errors, and she also wrote the introduction to ex-gay quack therapist Richard Cohen's book, Coming Out Straight. Quick vote on CNN about this asked, is the use of the N-word ever appropriate? 62% said yes, 38% said no. Do you think that's the real opinion of the country? This is not a scientific poll, and we know for fun people like to taint these polls.
Right.
Do you think 2/3 of Americans really think using the N-word is okay? I don't know. It does say ever appropriate.
Ever appropriate.
I guess that means if 62% think you can find some instance where it could be said.
Like if you're using it
in a movie, I don't know.
Not as an insult or as an example of what not to say. I don't know.
If you're prefacing it by saying the following words are words that you should not say, maybe that's what people were thinking of.
Who knows?
Midweek Politics is made possible in part by CSR Wire, the corporate social responsibility newswire at csrwire.com, by DIF Design, specializing in custom business websites at difdesign.com. To find out more about underwriting Midweek Politics, visit midweekpolitics.com.